Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. In this episode, Tuna surprises Alex with life-changing news. She's carrying his child. Overwhelmed with joy, Alex decides not to wait any longer and begins planning their wedding as soon as possible. From tender moments at the market choosing baby clothes, to the support he shows repairing the farm and facing the villagers, Alex proves his devotion through actions, not just words. Make sure to watch until the end of the video to see how their love story unfolds. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us. The morning sun filtered through the branches, scattering golden light across the red dirt road. Dust rose in the distance as a truck rumbled away, its cargo of heavy cement columns stacked neatly at the edge of Tuna's farm. She stood quietly, one hand supporting her lower back, the other instinctively resting on her rounded belly. Sweat glistened on her forehead, but her expression carried more resolve than weariness. Her eyes narrowed on the work left behind, the heavy lifting that still needed to be done. Just as she took a determined step forward, a shadow fell across her path. Alex emerged from the settling dust, steady and grounded, his presence both commanding and reassuring. "Let me handle this," he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that cut through the noise of the day. Tuna hesitated, her lips parting as if to argue, but his gaze held hers. It wasn't harsh, but protective, steady as though it could shoulder all the burden she carried. His hand rose gently, halting her movement. "You shouldn't strain yourself. Have some water. You're pregnant." The words struck deep, filling the silence between them. He reached into the truck, pulling out a cool bottle, and pressed it into her trembling hands. For a moment, her stubbornness faltered, and she gave him a faint smile, one that revealed both gratitude and exhaustion. Still, that familiar fire in her eyes did not vanish. She wanted to prove her strength, to show that pregnancy did not make her fragile. But Alex only shook his head, lips curling into a fleeting smile that betrayed both amusement and admiration. He knew her resilience, but he would never allow her to risk herself or their child. The workers' distant voices signaled that their job was nearly done. Tuna finally turned, asking Alex quietly if she could leave. Her steps down the winding path were slow, her back heavy, yet her heart strangely lighter. Alex remained behind, watching her retreating figure until it disappeared beyond the trees. His gaze lingered, heavy with thoughts unspoken, as if already planning the future he had yet to confess. The road quieted, the dust slowly settling, but between them lingered a bond deeper than words, a silent promise of protection, of love, and of the family they were about to become. Later that afternoon, the village market bustled with its usual clamor. Vendors called out their prices, children darted between stalls, and the earthy scent of fresh cassava mingled with the air. Tuna stood behind her small stall, arranging bags of cassava with careful hands. Each motion was slower than before, her growing belly dictating her pace, but her smile never wavered. 5,000 a bag, she said gently, handing a bundle to a customer. The buyer nodded and walked away, and Tuna exhaled quietly. Business wasn't bad, but her mind was far away. Her phone buzzed sharply in her apron pocket. She wiped her hand on her skirt and answered. Nam's voice came through, steady but tinged with urgency. "Is the factory cleaned up yet?" Tuna glanced across the market, her gaze distant, lost in thought. "It's done," she replied firmly. "I'm nearby." She mentioned that Alex was already on his way. The call ended, but her heart did not settle. She stood there, motionless for a moment, staring past the rows of stalls. The factory had been more than walls and machinery. It had been her dream, a place she poured her youth, her energy, her hopes, and now she would hand it over. A breeze swept through, rustling the tarps above the stalls, cooling her heated skin. She packed the cassava into neat stacks, her body moving on instinct while her heart remained elsewhere. Handing over the factory was the right decision, she told herself. Yet the thought of leaving it behind ached like an old wound. As the sun dipped lower, painting the market in golden light, she finally closed her stall and began the walk home. Each step carried both relief and sorrow, her future pregnant with both new beginnings and painful goodbyes. The market carried on around her, voices rising and falling. But for Tuna, the world felt different. Vast, fragile, and filled with changes she couldn't quite grasp. Back at the farm, twilight draped itself over the fields. The rhythmic clang of hammers echoed as Alex's workers secured the roof of the pigsty. Sweat glistened on their brows, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. Tuna stepped out into the yard, her smile lighting the dimming day. Her belly, heavy with new life, swayed gently as she moved. "Please, take some water," she said, offering them cups with a voice both gentle and grateful. The men nodded, wiping their foreheads. "The roof is done. Only the frame below remains," one reported. She invited them to stay for dinner, her hospitality warm, but they shook their heads politely. "It's late. We'll head home." When they left, silence settled. Tuna stood before the pigsty, her fingers tracing the smooth new beams. The roof would hold firm against rain, the frame against wind. It was more than just wood and nails. It was a symbol of shelter, of care, a reflection of Alex's steady presence in her life. Her gaze drifted to the piglets huddled inside, their small bodies pressed together for warmth. A hand instinctively covered her belly. Life within life, fragile yet strong, waiting to emerge into the world. The scent of fresh grass carried on the breeze, soft and calming. She turned back to the house, her hands busying themselves with dinner preparations. Yet her thoughts lingered on Alex. It wasn't just a pigsty he had repaired. He had given her peace of mind, protection in a world that often felt too harsh. Outside, the last of the sunset melted into darkness. But inside, Tuna's heart swelled with quiet gratitude. Still, beneath that warmth lay uncertainty, the kind that only a mother-to-be knows. Gratitude and fear wove together, forming the fabric of her nights, leaving her both hopeful and restless as she prepared to welcome the child growing inside her. Night deepened, the farm wrapped in stillness. A single oil lamp flickered inside Tuna's modest home, casting shadows on the walls. The creak of the wooden door announced Alex's arrival. He stepped inside, arms full of bags, his face tired yet softened by a smile. "I thought the workers would still be here," he murmured, setting the food and milk down on the table. Tuna looked up, her eyes shimmering in the golden light. She smiled softly, tidying the space with quiet hands. Gratitude glowed in her heart, unspoken but alive. "The milk from last time, did you finish it?" Alex asked, pulling out 2 more cartons labeled for pregnant women. Her cheeks flushed. "You always buy so much for me," she said shyly. "For our baby," he corrected gently, his smile faint but certain, "so they grow strong." They shared a simple meal, sitting across from each other like family. Tuna spoke of her day at the market, of her worries about the factory. Alex listened, nodding, before speaking of the new factory he was overseeing. His tone steady, but edged with concern. When the meal ended, he rose and stepped outside, checking the pigsty with practiced care. Tuna watched from the doorway, her hand resting on her belly, her heart swelling with emotions too complex for words. He returned, brushing the dust from his hands. "This weekend, I'll take you to buy baby clothes," he said gently. "You'll need to start preparing." Her throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She nodded silently, unable to find the right words. When Alex finally left, his silhouette faded into the night. Tuna stood alone, the oil lamp flickering softly. Her hand traced her stomach, where life moved quietly beneath her skin. She thought of his care, his quiet, unwavering presence. How could she ever repay such kindness? The night hummed with silence, but inside her heart, gratitude and fear wove together. She carried not just a child, but a promise, a future she hoped would hold them all. The next morning arrived quietly, with a haze of mist lingering over the fields. Tuna opened the wooden shutters of her small home, letting in the pale light of dawn. The farm was waking slowly, birds calling from the trees, piglets squealing softly in their pen. She inhaled the cool air, pressing a hand to her belly as if to reassure herself that the little life within was safe. Behind her, the kettle whistled, and she poured herself a cup of warm tea. For a fleeting moment, the world felt calm. But calm was rare in Tuna's life, and deep inside, she knew her days would not remain so peaceful. Her thoughts drifted to Alex. His face, when she had finally told him about the pregnancy, lingered vividly in her mind. The way his eyes widened with surprise, followed by joy, so pure it nearly took her breath away. He had stood there in silence at first, then reached for her hand, holding it as though he was afraid to let go. "We'll marry," he had said firmly, "as soon as possible. I want everyone to know you're mine, and our child will be born into a family, not uncertainty." The memory brought a soft flush to her cheeks. She had not expected such certainty, such readiness. For so long, she had borne the weight of her struggles alone, shielding herself from disappointment. Now, Alex was offering not just love, but a future, one she dared to hope for. By mid-morning, Alex returned to the farm, his shirt damp with sweat from overseeing work at the construction site nearby. He carried a stack of papers under one arm and bread in a bag with the other. Setting them down on the wooden table, he looked at Tuna with a seriousness that quieted the room. "I spoke to the elders this morning," he began, his voice even but firm. "They agree it's best if we don't wait. We'll hold the wedding soon, before the baby comes. You won't stand alone. Not anymore. Tuna's breath caught. She had imagined marriage before, but the speed of his resolve left her almost dizzy. So soon? She whispered, her fingers clutching the edge of the table. Alex reached across, gently covering her hand with his. You've carried too much by yourself. I won't let you carry this alone. Not you, and not our child. Emotion welled in her eyes, and she lowered her gaze, blinking quickly. She wasn't used to such unwavering support. For years, she had fought for survival, balancing her small farm, the market, and the weight of judgment from others. And now, here was Alex, pulling her into a future she had thought impossible. Later that day, Alex took her into town. The market there was busier than usual, vendors calling out prices, carts rattling down the street, children darting between legs. Alex walked beside her, his stride confident, his hand occasionally reaching to steady her when the crowd pressed too close. Look here, he said, stopping at a stall draped in tiny clothes, soft cotton shirts, small pants, and dresses patterned with flowers. Tuna froze, her eyes wide as she reached out to touch the fabric. The tiny garments made the reality of her pregnancy feel heavier, more immediate. Alex watched her quietly before speaking. We should start now. The baby won't wait, and neither should we. Tuna picked up a small hat, her hands trembling slightly. She smiled faintly, imagining a tiny head beneath it. The image sent a rush of warmth through her chest, mingling with a pang of nervousness. Alex, sensing her emotions, stepped closer. Don't worry, he said softly. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Those words lingered in her heart long after they left the market, bags of baby clothes in Alex's arms. As days passed, preparations for their wedding began quietly but steadily. Word spread quickly through the village, whispers filling the air. Some voices were supportive, others skeptical. But Alex never faltered. He visited Tuna daily, bringing supplies, making repairs, speaking with the elders. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned crimson, Tuna stood on her porch, watching Alex speak with a group of neighbors. His hands moved as he explained something about the wedding arrangements, his expression calm but firm. She listened to the murmurs of the villagers, some approving, some questioning, but her heart beat steadily. For once, she was not afraid of their words. Alex stood in front of them, not behind her, not in shadows, but beside her, claiming her openly. When he finally returned to her, his face tired but satisfied, he simply said, "It's settled. They'll come. The wedding will be ours, no matter what they think." Tuna felt her throat tighten. She wanted to tell him how much it meant, how much lighter her burdens felt with him beside her. But instead, she only nodded, her eyes glistening in the fading light. On the night before the wedding, Tuna could hardly sleep. The oil lamp flickered by her bedside as she lay awake, hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked softly, as if reminding her of the life she carried into tomorrow. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the struggles, the loneliness, the moments when she doubted herself. And then Alex, steady and unyielding, stepping into her life, not just with promises, but with actions. When dawn finally broke, The village stirred with anticipation. Women carried baskets of flowers. Men set up bamboo poles draped with fabric, and children ran excitedly around the yard. Tuna dressed slowly, her hands trembling as she adjusted the simple white audai Alex had chosen for her. Alex arrived soon after, dressed plainly but with a quiet dignity that made her breath catch. He looked at her not with nerves, but with certainty, as though this moment was exactly where they were meant to be. The ceremony was humble. No lavish decorations, no grand feast. Yet, as the elders chanted blessings and the villagers watched, Alex reached for Tuna's hand, holding it firmly. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Tuna allowed herself to truly believe. This was not just a promise spoken in passing. It was a life they were choosing together, one where she would never again stand alone. That evening, as the sun dipped low and lanterns flickered in the soft breeze, Tuna sat beside Alex on the porch of her home. The villagers had gone, the laughter of children fading into the distance. Silence wrapped around them, but it was a comforting silence, full of unspoken dreams. Alex placed a gentle hand on her belly, feeling the movement within. "Our child," he whispered, "born into a family." Tuna leaned her head against his shoulder, her heart swelling. For the first time in years, she felt no fear for tomorrow, only hope, steady and bright, carried in the hands of the man beside her and the life they would soon welcome.